Hello everybody, I am Sevas, a rather new member of the collective community that nevertheless has proven how strong his card game addiction is in the past tournaments as well as on the leaderboard. Today I'm bringing to you a showcase of Alt Collective, a project initiated by Magneter that aims to create a new curated collection of cards, and currently we decided that we will do so by creating a cube draft format. For those who don't know, cube means a limited collection of cards, in our case a mixed collection of official as well as custom created cards designed by Magneter, where each affinity is based around 3 main archetypes, one of which is a completely new or is lacking support to exist. Magneter's cube included 4 minds, its self-mill, its entrances, as well as shuffle. Some of you might know the Chrono realm. For spirit, it is summons and tombs, as well as XP spending instead of gaining. And for strength, it's self-sack, it's self-damage, and bumps, which is the one that I was the most excited about. And luckily, I can showcase to you 2 matches including that archetype today. But before I jump into the games, I will also give you a quick overview of the draft process, because it's quite a new thing that we just developed. And because instead of crafting a deck out of all the available cards, we decided to draft those, meaning they were separated in different packs of blueprints. Then you open a pack, you pick one blueprint out of those, and then the pack rotates to the next player, meaning that you as well will receive a pack with 1 less card to choose from the player to the left if you gave your pack to the player to the right. And this continues so and so on until all packs are empty, and then you end up with a pile of cards that you can build your deck from, because it's blueprints, so you can play those cards up to 3 times in your deck. We roughly ended up with like 21 blueprints to make those decks. Next time we probably increase this number, but without further ado, let's jump into the games. Game 1 of match 1, Magneter versus Sevas, that's me. We open up. We decide to put the biologist away and keep the serpent maiden, as well as a lot of duelists, which, considering the speed of our deck, will be very necessary to get to our late game bombs. Magneter meanwhile starts to develop. He already has a draw engine on board, as well as a flyer that can chip our face for 2 damage each turn. We get to turn 3, where we can actually start playing the game, because our deck is very slow. But considering the amount of duelists in our hands, I think we can get back on track soon enough. Next, we probably will remove the artifact, and Magneter continues to develop his board. He places a Bonk Boy on the field and protects it. Interesting, he sacrifices his flyer here, which will probably die next turn due to our duelist anyway, so it's not a bad move. Next turn we probably directly will trade with our Parasite, because our deck plays for card advantage, and by killing something with Parasite we discard a card from his hand. Sadly, it's just a coin, but a card is a card. Also, since we dealt damage to Bonk Boy, he procced, meaning that we got a lot of bumps into our deck. And that's the plan of Magneter's deck. Oh, here we can also see Sharp Cannon, the bump of his deck. No pun intended. That can shuffle a lot of bumps into our deck, if we keep it alive, of course. Which hopefully we want, considering the amount of duelists that we can play. Here we decide to punch for 3, get some damage in, hopefully finish the game soon enough before we get burned by all the bombs that he just shuffled into our deck. And we already prepare the next duelist for the next turn, keeping 2 mana up in case he decides to deal some damage to our duelist, so we can heal back up again. We check our graveyard. And loose cannon drops. Yup, perfect. We can heal up again. I was checking the graveyard because I had to consider the amount of tribal types that I have in a graveyard. Because as a contra player, I always consider for the late game, and Old World Titan basically cares about tribal types a lot. The game continues. We can already see that I don't think we will reach turn 11 actually here, because Magneter starts to have his resources basically depleted by the huge amount of duelists and by the pressure that I put onto his units. And we have still a lot more removals in our hand. Meanwhile, we sit here at 21 HP, still pretty healthy. We're not too worried about the burn that we will get by the bombs. And we decide to start develop more attackers onto the board. His hand is basically depleted at this point, but he still has some amount of blockers. And as far as I know Magneter, he's a man of honor, basically never giving up his game. But in this case, it actually makes sense, because he shuffles quite a lot of bombs into my deck, meaning if we are getting very unlucky and he has the present, we could actually get killed here. And present is a very interesting card, because one could consider it very bad because of the card advantage that it gives, but on the other hand, the draw that it creates could lead to another bomb, meaning this bomb could then make a chain reaction, which is huge. But here we're sitting at 15, hopefully not die next turn. And if we don't, the game should end probably. We trade the blocker away. Yep, and the game ends here. Alright, game 2 of match 1. Magneter versus Sevas again. We drop our biologist again, as well as our heavy hitters, namely our 5 costs, and end up with some removals and some duelist. And we draw Time Tetrahedron, a very interesting 2-drop that helps our deck to play on the defensive side of things. Meanwhile, Magneter develops his board again, starting with the draw engine and the ward generator. We draw our second tetrahedron, but decide to play the parasite, since next turn we're on the initiative, meaning we can simply chop something down without it being answerable. We get some damage going on. and discard his coin. Next, Magneter plays his bomb on in the deck, the Shark Cannon. We develop our next duelist, which will probably next turn grab one of those. Yeah, now it's only Warden as a target. Sadly, Shark Cannon now has a ward, meaning we can simply just deal some damage with our spell and then kill it with the duelist, but have to pop the ward first. To our luck, we drew the second shard, meaning we could potentially use all of our resources to kill it, but I don't think we will do that. Next, we can use the biologist to draw another troll. I think that was the only other type of tribe on a unit that we had. And Magneter develops the Bomb Boy, meaning we can't attack this turn anymore. And now we will probably get rid of the Bomb Boy first. Now I'm interested, was it a trap? Apparently no, he passed. Now we could think... Oh, right, he didn't pass. The animation was missing. I suggested that to Magneter that all the bomb cards didn't have any animation, so it was hard to pick up if something happened. But indeed, we have a lot of bombs in our deck, so it's getting very, very dangerous on this side. Magneter has a draw engine going and 2 of his bomb generators. So obviously, before he can activate the second one, we eat it, even before dealing with the draw engine, since we want to get rid of the worst threat first. Next, we can get rid of the Bomb Boy. At this point, I don't think we care about his draw. We basically try to run him down, meaning if we destroy the Bomb Boy, then the draw blocker gets away as well, and we can go in for 5 damage. And 1 additional because of the artifacts dealing 1 damage whenever in procs. Rock Chugger gets dropped. Alright. We let this through. Or we could use 1 time Tetrahedron actually. This is a way better trade. Because I was a bit scared of the burn damage that he can do. Here we can deal with the pump generator. Our duelists keep growing and growing, as well as our decks keeps growing and growing because of the amount of bumps. But slowly but surely we're getting to turn 11. Maybe this time we can drop our dinosaur. We develop a blocker. And now we can just get rid of all his blockers to push for more damage. There we go. Dealing 9 damage. And none in return. At this point the game is pretty over. And the match is won by Sevas. Match 2 starts. Game 1 of Dead Sun vs Magneter. Here we can see again from Magneter's perspective, he's was some bomb deck, where he shuffles a bunch of bombs into opponent's deck to burn him down in the late game. And he ends up, with a nice curve, some bomb generators, a bit of removal, and as well as a finisher. Meanwhile, Dead Zone, as far as I remember, he was playing a very draw-heavy, tempo-ish deck that just throws everything it had from its hands and then just kept redrawing more and more removals and then just finish with some big dudes like the Legion, for example. And he opens up and gains some XP from the chip. Interesting. Magneter develops and plays the Word Warden. Here you can see that his hand is very, very heavy. But, I mean, with the removal and his bomb of the deck, as well as the fact that he very luckily just drew the perfect unit for this turn, meaning that Dead Zone can no longer attack, to be real. And he played the Lunar Interdictor, marking... What did he mark? Probably removal. Equip marked. Yes, loose cannon was marked. Both heroes level up. And for surprise, Dead Zone passed, meaning either he has some kind of removal that he wants to play for this turn, or he just doesn't have anything. Magneter continues to develop his bomb generators and still keeps discouraging Dead Zone from any attacks because of the bomb boy that is currently on the field. Plasma Splash pops the word. And there's a sudden strike. As I said, Dead Zone is very aggressively with his card advantage, basically using everything he has just so he can get some damage in. And also he removes most of the blockers. We see a rock chucker being drawn, meaning that we can just either develop for 2 here or use a removal spell and then keep the mana up for the trick. Interestingly, Dead Zone decides to buff the transform unit, meaning if we proc the transform, the unit loses the buff, so that was a bit questionable. Dead Zone at 4 cards. Not quite there yet with the damage output that he wanted to do. And here Magneter decides to prevent the 4 damage and shuffle some bombs. And he also top decked the perfect remover. With the both 10 cost cards in his hand, he can feel pretty safe and secure, since he can now just keep shuffling in some bombs, and as long as Dead Zone draws one of them, he's basically dead. If the game continues so far, to be honest. But since Dead Zone has no more cards in his hand, to be honest, just 4 cards compared to Magneter's 7. A sudden strike. Maybe he has removal for it. Let's see. Because that's basically the very, very dangerous threat of Magnetor's deck. If you don't deal with the Shark Cannon, then you will eventually die to the wombo combo of the bombs. Rock Chaka gets robbed. And now even no bombs are needed for the finishing blow at turn 11. More bombs are being generated. And the bombing starts. First bombing drone. Sadly not the second one. But since the present has rebound, we can just do it again. And sadly that zone drew into a removal. But I don't think this will be enough. He already has a lot of bombs in his deck. Meaning it's only the matter of time until he dies. Especially now with the fly on board, the clock gets closer and closer. And Magnetor can decide between either dropping the draw engine or, of course, the bomb generator. That zone starts with drawing of a bomb, dealing 3 damage to him. 8 hit points versus 18. Also with the Scrap Destroyer on board, which is a very interesting use because I didn't think of using it as a pure draw engine. But sadly in this matchup it's not very helpful. Also, since I mentioned before that Dead Zone's deck is very, very draw heavy, like remember him having just 4 cards in hand, and now look at his hand, it's gigantic because of all the draw cards that he has. But in this matchup, it's rather bad. And the bomb wombo combo starts. Finishing blow of the present, and the game ends here. Game 2 of match 2, Magnetor vs Dead Zone. We see in Dead Zone's hand as creature stealer, some removal, some card draw, a lot of card draw, but nothing really to develop here, so we just keep popping up some spells to prevent Magnetor from developing. A sudden strike. I don't think this card saw play in its actual intention. I think it just was used as a 1-mana deal 2, which is nice. And we see a finisher in Dead Zone's hand. The Legion will come into play on turn 9 and devastate Magnetor. Or at least that's what I think will happen. And even more draw. Now Dead Zone can be pretty safe and secure when it comes to card advantage. He can just keep popping those spells from his hand. Nightmare Carnival. A very interesting card used here that saw plenty of play in Legacy as because of the milling. not only opponent milling, but also a very helpful card to mill your own deck for diverse synergies. Third Bloodblade in his hand. Sadly, nothing really to combo off it. Or at least currently nothing's there. Electrocute being used here. It's very sad because I think it would be better to keep it for an actual bomb. Like the bomb generator that Magnetar has here. I think that archetype that Magnetar is playing was the one that I was most interested in, because of the burn. Like it's just a funny gimmick to shuffle in some bombs into opponent's deck. It's similar to Hearthstone, to the Hearthstone mechanic, and it never really saw play as far as I know. Like there are some cards, but there was never enough support for those cards, so Magnetar wanted to test his theory about that archetype. He keeps developing. I would say he has a very solid board right now. Like, what is this? 8 secured bombs per turn. And also a blocker, which discourages attacking. And we see Dead Zone's hand getting bigger and bigger here. Even more draws, some pressure in his hand. The cards here could be useful to steal the bomb generator. And now we can see his hand. Magnetar's hand, I mean. Some bomb boys, some blockers, wardens. I think Purifier was marked. Yep. I think it was Puapka's card. It was developed to counter the previous meta of the standard format in Collective. And it was a very interesting take from Magnetar to actually use it in this format, because we're not quite sure yet how this standards look like. So I wouldn't actually put in like actual hate cards, at least yet, before we're not really sure what's the cube about. 10 mana. Perfect. We can either... Yes, I think it's the Legion turn for sure. There was no either here. It's Legion for sure. Bam. Board's gone. Now, I think... Like, I'm not quite sure. We can get bombed here. Bombed to death. Or we could also just drop the card stealer. The 8 cost unit to get something. Mind O War, that's the name of it. Yep, we're stealing the bomb boy. And then we can use this, Bloodblade on the bomb boy next turn. So we proc its rage, therefore shuffling bombs into Magnetar's deck. And also we probably would buff the flying unit, not only to keep bomb boy, because we probably will kill him with the second Bloodblade to proc it again and then buff our flying unit again, since it has some evasion, and then in 2 turns Magnetar should be dead. Also considering that we got some amount of burn in our hand. And in fact a lot of draw. We're not sure what we actually want to do with this hand here. Candle is being played. Okay. Still mana up for 2 blades. But now that's the question. Will Purifier increase the cost? Nope. He's shuffling. He sees his hand. Oh, we can see that Magnetar has no removal. We can just decide to pop the blades, to be honest. But with the second purifier, we got disrupted a bit. Not a lot, but it's something. Therefore, I'm quite surprised that Dead Zone didn't use the Blood Blades before. Yep, he gets the idea, buffs the best unit, and just procs the bomb generator for himself. I think that's a lot of damage, that's for sure. It's 17 damage, I think. And now Magnetrus is at 4. And he gets bombed, meaning now we have initiative. And we can just burn for phase, can't we? Oh no, actually we can't, because we didn't keep the splash. Sadly. But does it matter? Can Magneto burn that zone down here? Give orders being dropped. I think I would pass here. And yeah, if I would be that zone, I probably would pass here, since his board, if they both enter the combat phase, that zones always wins. And now he doesn't have mana up for to potentially answer something that he otherwise couldn't deal with. Blood Blades. Yeah, that zone's just spending mana for no reason here, I think. Just to show off, I guess. Some people want to have fun. Soul Crusher. Yup, spending all the mana. Alright, attacks happen. Magneto can do anything, and the game ends here. Second game for Dead Zone. We get to game 3 of Dead Zone and Magneto, the deciding match. Alright, we see from Dead Zone's perspective, he has a very early start with the double 1-drops. Gets some chips going on. Magneto doesn't seem to develop too much. Yep, only dropped the present, so shuffled in 1 bump. And Dead Zones decide to activate one of the chip, which is interesting, because I think I would consider using it as removal for next turn, like a possible removal, or a proc for Ashgardy's passive XP gain, because they can hit both phase and units, which is random, so we can't really have total control over it. But now I can actually understand if we don't want to do this, since we have a nice turn 3 play as well as turn 4 play, being either the duelist or the shapeshifter. And probably Lunar Interdictor will be dropped. Question mark? Maybe the duelist? I don't think the duelist has good targets. Oh my god. Shark Cannon, Shark Cannon, Shark Cannon. Let's see what will get picked as the marked card. Usually people tend to pick removals. So when people try to get rid of the Lunar Interdictor, he then will be transformed, no longer being the target of the spell, so the spell just vanishes, which is a neat tactic. Plasma Splish gets drawn. And we're getting rid of the blocker, I think, so then we can put in some damage. Oh, interesting. Now here, I think I would wait with this. Though... let's get healed back again. Nah, never mind. Doesn't really matter. We still have 1 mana up. Plasma Splash. Magneto sacrifices that unit itself. Interestingly. Interesting, now that zone can get the procs for Ashgari's passive XP gain. Drops a knight. Already is over half to his level, to his next level. And we get a blood blade. Cool. We could use it maybe on a transformed beast. Popping the shield. I wonder why. Oof, and now we see the second track cannon. Probably next turn we'll drop another one. Nice, we made a bomb. That's very neat. And I guess we can start spamming the swords, like the ping 2 on one of the sharks, just to be efficient with the mana. Or we can roll with the star chip. Oh, defensive use of the chip. Can I see that? I'm not sure. I think that sounds really wants to be the beatdown in this case. Like, he doesn't really care about his health points. He's the one that just wants to keep punching and kill Magneto as fast as he can. So I don't think healing with the chip was good. I think trying to high roll for the face damage is better. Because either it's face damage or it hits a unit, therefore you can, now having the 2 mana, finish the second cannon shark with the 2 swords. Never mind, they will be handy now. Because yes, we get 6 bombs, right? It's 3 per proc. 3. Health pot. Alright. Forget about our plan. What do we do? I think we still attack with everything. Yes, this would be the unit that we want to eat with the duelist. I think we would keep it for that. Another deal 5, nice. We can remove another blocker. Sadly, Lunar Interdictor did not transform. But he also couldn't proc the bomb. Magneto continues to play for bombs, which is interesting. I think he needs to keep removing the attackers. And drawing 1 bomb, I don't think that's a problem for that zone. Yeah, Magneto indeed activates the active, okay. Is this lethal? That's 3, that's... Never mind, okay. Loose cannon being used. Interestingly, not under actual threat of 2 damage. Like, that's 1 more damage, I don't think matters a lot, but I would consider removing it. Or he could be scared of the Legion, which makes total sense. Yeah, that zone can just keep drawing into burns. I guess he drew into self-burns. It's 6 damage. Mind of War has been drawn. And Plasma Splash, which is 2 face damage. Give the order is being played. so we can get at least 2 damage in. With the 2 damage in, like if Magnetar doesn't remove anything, then we can Plasma Splash for game next turn. Let's see. Ouch. Well, he did remove the 2 damage, but at what cost? Yeah, basically swinging everything just to get the mana going for next turn, because Magnetar has to block everything. So he gets extra 6 mana next turn, which is huge considering that zone has a lot of draw. 15 mana, okay. Yeah, but nevertheless, we just splash for game, I think. He's hovering over it, but not using it, okay. I guess loose cannon will be picked here. It is a removal, I think the only one. And everything else is... Yep, and everything else doesn't remove any of his threats. I wonder why that zone doesn't play the splash. He sees Magnetar's hand, and he knows that Magnetar can't do anything. Oh cool, we can see an interesting thing in that zone stack. Because of all the chip burglars he has, he can use Neon AAAs to just keep getting those back, and then with Carnival, he mills them again. Like, he mills them first, then he uses Neon, and therefore he generates a lot of chips. And since those chips are very flexible, it's a very neat tool to have later in the game. I mean, it could be that he doesn't know that he can use the splash for phase. But even then, he could, for example, use the chip now to high roll phase damage. Yeah, it's getting dangerous for that zone. Nope, he's still not using it for phase. Okay. Yeah, as I said, it's very dangerous for that zone because of the 3 damage now, meaning 4 more bombs. And okay, 1 less, I guess. 3 more bombs. And that zone is dead. Let's see. 1 bomb. Okay. No more bombs. Electrocute is being played. Represent. Oh no. Chip is being used to heal. And that's the wonderful part about the chips. Since they are so flexible, you can just decide what to do for the turn. And that's all. Let's keep making chips. And no. Okay, the game is won for Magnetar. GG. Match 3. It's game 1, Dead Zone versus Sevas. We see our hand, and since everything comes into place so nice, like we curve 3 into 4 into 5, we keep this hand. Dead Zone will again his whole hand away. And we even have the buff, the merge unit to possibly use on turn 4 after we drop Parasite. So turn 3, where the actual game starts, since apparently none of us got any good cards to drop. It's probably because Dead Zone has a lot of pink spells, like early pink spells to use, but I don't have any creatures to drop early on. Lunar Interdictor, now Dead Zone sees my hand. Let's see. I guess he would mark the removal card, like the shard, which is a very, very controversial card, to be honest. Here also I wasn't sure why I couldn't duel. It's maybe something with timing. But anyways, next turn I just chop down the lunar detector so he can no longer transform. A Voidborn is being dropped. Well, now either I would drop the second duelist, or I just use my full mana to drop the 5-drop, or to heal up. Yep, I decided to heal up my duelist because I love the fact that it just keeps discarding. I probably should have healed up the duelist here, but not sure. Anyways, here I decide to heal up, okay. Ah yes, I planned, so this turn I heal up, so I have 4 mana left, so then I can drop the duelist. I'm thinking about what to chop down. Yep, that makes perfect sense. Bloodblade being discarded, and the second duelist drops. Since I don't want to get rid of my units, I just get rid of the duelist. And now you can see the quite controversial part of Crystal Shard, the part that just keeps getting back into your hand, which will be a very important part in the matches between Dead Zone and me. So I think that one should be either like once per turn, so it just comes back once, or the copies, that was Magneto's suggestion. The copies would be ephemeral, meaning that if you don't use them the turn that you play the card, they disappear from your hand. Stealing going on, but not for me. I use my removal to get back my Parasite and Troll Savage drops. Yep, since I couldn't block the Overwhelm, I just decided to trade in some damage. Here we discard another card, and since Carnival got discounted so much, it's the card that's getting discarded. And our hand is looking pretty neat. We got some removals, we have some late game drops, and also a draw engine. The next one. Alright. This time it's not the duelist. But I think we're feeling pretty safe here. Developing more attackers for next turn. And swinging with everything. I didn't want to kill the crow because it's obviously my unit, so I plan to kill the stealing unit and then Absolute Storm drops. And it absolutely destroys my board. Not even getting back the crow, sadly. Yeah, this time, since I learned, okay, he has the thing, we just keep a few units on board, don't overextend. But also this gets punished badly by the Legion. So, now we're kinda having a problem here. And you also see the magnificent work of Crystal Shards, of just popping 1 and 2 and 3 legions at just once. And this being such a flexible card and having such a big impact even late game is a bit too much in my opinion. We draw some useless cards, but we have 11 mana for our biggest dingus, which we don't use. Bloodblade being dropped. we should kill the draw engine here. Yep. Crystal. Yeah, we can destroy one of them. Then wait next turn. So we just keep crystalling. Yep. I think we could actually... Yeah, we don't have to... Since we would attack anyway, we could just keep the removal. Caltrops, what is called? Yes, Caltrops, since in order to use it, we need the opponent to attack. Ah, we got some draw, that's nice. We could maybe use it later on the dinosaur. So drop dinosaur now and then draw another dinosaur. Plasma Splash. Yep. Now since Ref would be dead anyway, we can just crash it into the Legion card. Splash. Okay. Again, we don't overextend and get punished for it. Second Legion drops. Now it's getting kinda hard for us. Since even if we drop, yeah, we use all of our resources just to try to survive. Also the blocker. We know that we don't throw anything, it's just I try my best to survive here. Nope, that card is not helping. And with him drawing even more, I think this game is pretty over. Wink wink to the designers of Slam as an ability. I think we should remove it. Wink wink. This is an example of it. Anyways, Lunar Interdictor being dropped. We don't really have a big chance here, like 12 damage is getting him at least, and he can draw into another splash. Yep. And level up happens. Now we just even died to just give the order. And GG. Here we go with the second game of Dead Zone versus me. Here we go, second game. Match 3 of Sevas versus Dead Zone. We open up a beautiful hand. We got again some Parasite, some Trolls, some buffs, and even a 5-drop Duelist, which is nice. We could maybe utilize King of Tails in this game. I'm not sure. I know that it would be quite handy against Magnetor because of all the bomb generators that just want to keep reactivating their bomb abilities, and with this we can just steal those. But here I think that Zones rather prefers just pure stats and not really abilities. So Luna gets dropped, we answer with Parasite since it was marked and we don't really have another answer, and we know that Dead Zone is running a lot of ping spells, so yeah, you see. So we preferred to just activate, eat the 4 damage into my face and just trade, or rather go 2 for 1 because of Parasite's Slay ability. So another, yes, he marked another Parasite. So we played a Troll, hopefully we can just eat something this turn. And then we probably just, we dropped a 5-drop, I think. Either this or, no, never mind. We're doing some healing. Or buffing, I can say. But I probably would prefer healing and developing a unit here. Like Parasite or something. Yep. So we do some healing. HP goes up and we can do more dueling. And that zone discards a card. Sorry, never mind. It wasn't a parasite, it was the troll, so troll gets buffed. Now he will probably discard the card since we buff our parasite. Meaning that we can strike twice, discarding 2 cards. If he wouldn't Absolute Storm, I didn't think about that cards at all. Alright, bad on me. We're still both sitting at over 20 HP, so nothing basically happened. But I can see being on the upper hand here, since I have a lot of like late drops. Like, yeah, exactly here I'm checking how many parasites I got killed. Because I don't think I have, I don't actually have like tribe sharing units. So when I use Old World Titan to revive something, just like 1 unit will get back, so it wasn't very synergistic here. It still is like good stats in the late game, and the best unit at late game is probably getting like Kadar or just Dino back into the game. Mind of War, alright. Kshak gets stolen. We have removal, and we use removal. Here I think using shard would be better, to be honest. I'm not sure why we didn't want to use it. We keep buffing our units, so we have more damage on board. Quite indecisive here. And we continue with another Mind of War, of course. Kshak the Terrible just drops into that zone's board, and now we use Crystal Shard. Which, basically just saves the game. As mentioned before, this card is a bit too much. Like, it basically just saved me the game here. Otherwise I would need to do some shenanigans, like like sacrificing my Deadly Duelist next turn. We're drawing some cards. And I think here we're trying to draw into the Dino. The Dino would be really, really helpful when Legion drops. The third one, alright. Crystal Shards showing how oppressive it is. Opponent helping us to draw into Crater Maker. And we have a pretty strong board here. Like, it's not very strong, but we keep doing damage, so we're pretty ready for the Legion drop. Another Mind of War. But, he knows, we know, Crystal Shard knows, his Crystal Shard is just a tidbit too much. Plasma Splish being played. I think I should have used the Crystal Shard, so I can deal 3 more damage this turn. I think I was a bit too greedy. Also overdeveloping here, definitely. And there we draw a card early. Yeah, this game is... I don't know. I think he could still win this one. Never mind, since Kadar has basically agile, even if he clears the board here, next turn we can just play Kadar. Except for he playing Legion, I guess. Yeah, Legion, then we would have to like work around. It's mainly because he would have initiative next turn. System upgrade, getting some draws and striking for a game. It's 101 now. And here we are, the last match of the Cube Draft. Dead Zone versus Sevas. We open up with a pretty light curve, I guess. We sadly have no duelist, but enough stats, I guess, to develop on the board. We have our favorite card, the Shard again. And we develop, put 4 stats, like I guess 8 stats on the board. And he decides to, interestingly, duel not the Maiden, but the Serpent. Thing I would decide otherwise in this place. But sure, let's see, turn 4 we can decide to drop our merger, I guess. Either that or we develop our removal. Merger time it is. Therefore we keep having the clock going on, since it's very evasive, 3 damage per turn. Flying is a very scarce ability, I think in the collective, like in the official pool as well, where flying is basically unblockable. Plasma Splash. And finally, we develop some duelist on board. Our hand is looking quite all over the place. I'm not sure what we want to do with it, but since we have that clock going on here, we don't really care about anything else. If the clock exists here, we just win eventually. Plasma Splash. You can just develop a blocker again. And we get stormed, sadly. Yep, again, I didn't think about that. I really should remind myself each turn that this is possible. He might have storm. I mean, he just passed with still full mana, basically. But yeah, Scrap Destroyer is being dropped. Again, a very interesting card. I didn't think of using it as a draw engine. Like, it just passed my eyes. I think if I would see this, I guess, I highly would consider it instead of Kshak, for example. We keep developing, since that zone is developing as well. And again, that flying 3/3 engine, like a clock, I guess, is going on again. Nightmare Carnival. Alright. Here you can see me already checking out my graveyard, because I think it's the first game where we leveled up. Yeah, it's the first game where we level up with Marie. And therefore, I'm always checking, alright, which unit could I use for this? Because with Marie's active, we can activate, banish the first unit on top of our graveyard, and then use each of its active summons and entombs, sorry. And that one has fallen for the trap. Now we activate the crow's summon, meaning it gets banished, but it merges again to a unit. Yeah, that one is also a bit surprised here. I think I forgot about that interaction. And we just drop everything we have on the board. I think I did this because of protection from the board gear again. Because next turn you would have like what, 9 mana? -2. It's still 7. Yeah, I'm not sure I did this. And here it goes. Yep, get punished. So, with the rest of the mana, we can just develop again and wait for the following turns, because when we hit turn 11, the fun starts. The fun of the deck. Yeah, I activated Mary's active here because I basically want to keep removing cards from the top of my deck, because eventually I will get to like actual usable cards. And yeah, there are not plenty of cards that I can use, but for example the Biologist has a summon, like the Murderers is just a very nice repeated unit that you can put that has evasion on it. And yeah, there's like stuff like the Old World Titan, and in some cases, even a Neon drops. I guess he wants to get some chips going. Nope, he missed the opportunity. Huh. Second try. Yep, whoops. There he goes, 3 chips. Could be helpful to stay alive here. So now we are quite ahead on board, but we are still a bit of like weary about Legion. Like I'm very scared about the Legion drop. Still 11 mana. And now he's at 10. I think Legion was 9 mana if you're playing it off affinity. And after our dino dropped, it gets stolen. I completely forgot to put this card. I felt pretty safe and secure when he was at 8. But sadly, it's his turn to get the dino back. And you're still right, because we can just keep removing it with the shard crystal. And we don't want to use our dino to remove our dino. So we get some anomalies on board. Yep, and he keeps it at 8 mana again. Yeah, shouldn't have done this. I really should have do the crystal shard thing. It was a misplay from my part. Also, yes, just units getting removed. Sad. Yeah, I'm checking my grave since I hoped to get my dino, but since I killed the dino on his board, you can see that it's in his grave currently. So I have no access to it through the Old World Titan. And Crater Maker shifts its place again. I think he switched like, I don't know, 5 times this game. Maybe even 6. Anyway, Plasma Splash. And Crystal Shards. Yep, still pretty healthy. Still big hand and a lot of ways to get my dino back. That zone is considering something. Maybe he didn't draw the Legion. Last startup. We just keep making our graveyard smaller, just a bit. And your next turn, hopefully, lethal? Let's see. Neon Triple Ace. Ah, he's doing the Carnival shenanigans. Yeah. Okay, he's getting only 1 chip. Probably healing up, but it's still 11 HP. That's not enough to survive. Yeah, since it's not enough to survive, we just passed here. And he's a 9 mana. So I wonder what's going on. I think we're not... Yes, Legion is dropped. Alright, so. Yep. Again, a quick reminder. Slam is kinda whack. Think we could remove it. But anyways, I take a look. What do I pick? Of course, it's the Crater Maker. Looking for a dino. Ah, no, right, I forgot. I got a bunch of Spectres in my deck because of the generated anomalies. And next turn I can still keep up the Crater Maker and then, for example, grab the Crow from the top of my deck to make something evasive, like, for example, the Old World Titan. Ooh, another Crater Maker. And more chips. At this point, yep, we're making our Old World Titan evasive. Never mind. Well, this didn't work as expected. I forgot that first I have to pick the unit that I want to replace. But on the other hand, now Altward Titan is on top of our deck. Grave. So we could eventually use it. And there you see it. We're picking up a dinosaur. Dinosaur being dropped. Creator Marika deals damage. Slam, I guess. And here, yeah, his hand is getting emptied. I think I want to remove his draw engine so he doesn't draw into another legion. We see the crystal shard being abused again. And we swing. Swinging for 7. Blood Blade being dropped. Is he still having some shenanigans? Who knows? Still keeps drawing cards. Added 2 mana was basically for free, since as long as we stay at 11 mana, we are feeling pretty good. And Sudden Strike removing our threat. So since this is no longer lethal, we now decide to develop something or just use our removal against his cards. So it becomes lethal again. Ha! And he survives. Yep, grabbing the healing from the starship. This turn is sadly not a lethal turn. Oh god, this game is going for quite a bit. Nearly 20 minutes. Nightmare Carnival trying to draw into the Legion, but I believe he might have milled all his legions. Just a quick check on my own grave. Sitting at 8 cards versus his 3 cards. So even if we somehow don't manage to get him, he might still get decked out. Getting chipped. I think I was considering dropping Great America. Yep. But I felt very, very secure. Because of the Legion that I just saw hitting his graveyard. Just a quick check. There's one Legion that was Death Legions. Yeah, I think he might have milled all his legions and there is no outs to this. Yep, and that's game. And that was it. I hope you enjoyed the games, and hopefully I initiated some spark of enjoyment about Cube Draft and our incoming cubes for the next months. If you want to check out what we're doing, you can go to the site servers in the official collective server and look for Alt Collective. And until then, I hope you have fun designing and figure out what's broken in the current standard. See ya!